I wanted to make an observation about writing and to illustrate it by reference to dialogue in the cinema. As a matter of fact, I'm getting around to confiding in you a line of a cinema dialogue which I would absolutely love to have written. When we say that something is well written, when we talk about something as being good writing, we actually are capable of meaning two quite distinct things by that. In the first place, of course, and perhaps more often, what we're talking about is the manipulation, the expert manipulation of language so as to formulate, with luck, ideally, a striking, sparkling thought in an architecturally elegant sequence of words. That is pretty standard stuff, but I think it's probably worth reminding ourselves that there's also a kind of good writing which consists in the perfect placing of, if you like, the most commonplace words in the most hackneyed kind of phrase. Where have you come from? I don't know, I don't care. Any kind of off-the-shelf phrase, commonplace words, which by their function in a particular moment, in a particular context, have the most extraordinary, potent effect on everything which surrounds them. In Richard Ellman's biography of James Joyce, Ellman has a rather wonderful sentence about Nora Joyce, who was the first and last love of James Joyce, whom he met when she was a young, uneducated hotel chambermaid. And of course, Joyce already knew and wasn't slow to say that he, in fact, was a very important writer in the making. Well, Ellman says of Nora Joyce this: the idea that sentences could be framed with varying degrees of skill was new to her and, on the whole, unacceptable. This, you will notice, actually, is a sentence which attempts, by its own example, to teach Nora Joyce how wrong she was. Now, there is a deservedly famous piece of dialogue in the film of The Third Man. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, already know it. And it is the piece of dialogue spoken by Orson Welles on top of the Ferris wheel in Vienna in a film directed by Carol Reed, written by Graham Greene. And it's the passage where, by way of exculpating himself, he remarks that in Italy, over 30 years under the Borgias, there was murder, terrorism, bloodshed, and it produced Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, he says, they had brotherly love. Over 500 years, they had democracy and peace. And what did that produce? The cuckoo clock. It's altogether an admirable speech from a movie. It's actually rather wonderful, even down to the last 3 syllables. I don't know how it works in Portuguese, but the 4 hard K sounds encompassing that last pathetic, concrete object of the cuckoo clock. There's something perfect about it. However, this is not the speech to which I was referring to when I said I was going to tell you about some cinema dialogue which I would absolutely have loved to have written. As a matter of fact, you know, I admire it. Who wouldn't? But I don't envy it. As a matter of fact, I could have written that, and if that strikes you as a breathtaking piece of vanity, the writers in the audience will know what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is that we know how it's done. It doesn't have any mystery for us. It's a marvelous speech, and you know, we probably will never write one as good in a certain sense, but it creates no envy because, as I say, it comes from application, from literary and literate industry. As a matter of fact, if I may add apparent vanity to out-and-out impertinence, I don't think it's necessarily a good cinema speech anyway, because it doesn't actually drive the movie forward. The movie has to pause to accommodate it. And maybe the structure of the movie is such that Carol Reed and his author, who, by the way, could have been Orson Welles. I was told by somebody once that actually Orson Welles contributed those lines. I have no idea whether it's true. But, you know, possibly, if one analyzed the whole thing, one would say, well, actually, that was a good moment for the movie to pause. Nevertheless, it is a kind of good writing which I was referring to. In a later film, possibly less distinguished, called The Fugitive, starring Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, you will remember that Harrison Ford is playing a man who is an innocent man unjustly convicted of murdering his wife, and circumstances enable him to escape captivity. And the bulk of the movie is the pursuit of Harrison Ford by Tommy Lee Jones and others. And of course, Harrison Ford's problem is very simple. If only he could persuade his pursuers that he didn't kill his wife, his problem, all his problems, he believes, would be over. And there comes the moment where he runs out of road. His back is to a precipice. The cops are approaching. Tommy Lee Jones in the forefront. And there they are, with Harrison Ford having nowhere to go, and Tommy Lee Jones yards away, and it's all going to be over. And the character played by Harrison Ford says the only thing that he can say. He says, "I didn't kill my wife." And Tommy Lee Jones says, "I don't care." And that's the line I would love to have written.